The incident we'll talk about in today's video is based on a real-life event. The chilling last message, "Someone's following me," a phrase so simple, so direct, yet so devastatingly final that it became the focus of one of the most confounding and eerie missing persons cases in modern urban history, a case that still disturbs investigators, psychologists, and cryptologists alike because of the way it unfolded, not in a sudden act of violence or an obvious abduction, but in the slow suffocation of dread stretched over weeks, a digital trail of growing paranoia, and a final, horrifying vanishing that left no witnesses, no suspects, and no answers. Only a bag, a broken phone, and a sister haunted by the message that came just moments before silence swallowed everything. It began innocuously. 27-year-old Rachel Lynn, a behavioral science graduate researcher at the University of Washington in Seattle, had always been methodical, rational, and skeptical of the paranormal. She specialized in trauma psychology, working on a thesis about the evolution of fear in digital spaces, focusing particularly on online harassment, stalking patterns, and the psychological decay that follows when someone begins to feel they're constantly being watched. She often immersed herself in the minds of victims to better understand the subtle mental shifts, and some would later argue that perhaps she immersed herself too deeply. In early September 2021, she began conducting interviews for her research, reaching out to stalking victims across various forums. She exchanged emails, DMs, and even anonymous voice calls to collect raw, emotional data. But her sister, Amanda, noticed that around mid-September, Rachel's tone started shifting in her messages. "I think this stuff is starting to affect me more than I expected," she wrote. "Been feeling like someone's watching me. Not in a paranoid way. Just watched." Amanda assumed it was emotional residue from the intense interviews. But the text continued. On September 18th, "Saw a man standing across the street from my apartment. Twice now, just watching. Doesn't move when I look at him." September 21st, "My apartment door was unlocked when I got home today. Pretty sure I locked it. Nothing missing. Nothing moved. Just unlocked." She told Amanda she was probably being paranoid and laughed it off. But that same week, Rachel messaged a friend, Nathan, a voice memo. "I don't know if I'm feeding my own fear, or if something real is feeding off me." She'd begun documenting every strange thing. Anonymous calls, unfamiliar footsteps. Outside her window, the same black SUV parked near her university lab 3 days in a row. She took photos of license plates, recorded ambient sounds at night, and tried tracing IP addresses from strange messages. Each attempt led nowhere. In her journal, which Amanda later found hidden inside a freezer, wrapped in foil, Rachel had written repeatedly, "Eyes in the dark." No sound, no reflection. One entry stood out. "It doesn't knock. It doesn't need to. I think it waits for silence. For me to be alone with it." She wasn't sleeping. She told her academic advisor she was taking a 2-week mental health break and began using burner phones to communicate with Amanda. The calls were short. "I can't risk it hearing too much," she once said. On October 4th, she found a red thread tied in a loose knot around her doorknob, a sign she'd read about from one of the stalking forums she'd studied, used to mark watch targets. She changed locks again, installed a second peephole, and covered every mirror in her apartment. "It uses reflections," she wrote. "If I see it, it sees me more clearly. That's when it gets closer." On October 9th, she went completely silent for 24 hours. No texts, no calls. Amanda panicked, but the next day, Rachel reappeared, sending an image, a picture of her apartment wall, covered in hundreds of small sticky notes, each one bearing a single timestamp between 1 a.m. and 1:15 a.m., written in different inks, different handwriting, even though Rachel lived alone. She told Amanda she was hearing knocks every night at 1:03 a.m., exactly 3 knocks, then silence. It's not just a stalker, it's rehearsing. It's practicing being human. She checked into a hotel under a false name on October 11th, but checked out again less than 12 hours later. It followed me there, she said in a message. The knocking started again. But now it's on the ceiling. The next day, she bought a body cam, wore it 24/7, and uploaded encrypted backups of her footage every 6 hours to a private cloud server. But Amanda later found that those files, all 82 of them, had been overwritten, replaced with static, and embedded with a phrase repeated over 10,000 times in hexadecimal. Imbihinju. On the evening of October 14th, Rachel texted Amanda one final time. Going for a walk. Need to breathe. If I text weird stuff, just ignore it. Amanda replied instantly, don't go alone. No answer. At 11:49 p.m., I think I'm being followed. At 11:51 p.m., he's not close. Just matching my pace, half a block back. At 11:52 p.m., someone's following me. That was it. The phone was found less than 5 minutes later, face down on the sidewalk, screen cracked. Battery still at 73%. The SIM card partially ejected as if torn out mid-connection. Her bag was nearby, placed, not dropped, beside a fire hydrant. Her ID, journal, burner phone, and wallet were untouched. Her apartment was clean, untouched. No signs of packing. No signs of return. Surveillance footage from 4 nearby cameras showed her walking, past at 11:50 p.m. But each camera had a 2-second glitch, and in each glitch, when frames were slowed down, a tall, blurred figure could be seen just behind her, face blanked. By distortion, as if the camera was resisting its presence. When police enhanced the audio from the footage, a low pulse, like distant bass, played during each glitch. Infrasound experts confirmed it was a tone often associated with nausea, unease, and visual hallucinations. Weeks later, Amanda received a plain manila envelope in the mail, no return address, postmarked from a town in Arizona Rachel had never visited. Inside, one Polaroid, dated October 15th, timestamped 2:17 a.m. It showed Rachel sitting on a bench. In a train station no one could identify, looking directly at the camera, eyes wide, mouth closed, a faint blur beside her that didn't cast a shadow. Behind her, on a wall, written in red marker, "I didn't follow me, I to lead me here." Since then, similar disappearances have occurred across cities, always involving people who claimed they were being watched, followed, mimicked. Always involving knocking. Always around 1:03 a.m. In 2022, Amanda received a text from Rachel's old number. Just one word, mirror. Investigators traced it to a signal source that appeared to originate from multiple cell towers at once, a technological impossibility. The case remains unsolved. Rachel's body was never found. But those who've studied her notes say the scariest line wasn't her last message. It was one she'd written in the margins of her journal weeks earlier, circled and underlined again and again. It doesn't want to take me. It wants me to invite it in.